Hello guys, it's Pius. Welcome to a new video. I will prove Jesus is God according to John chapter 10 verse 30, and I will use the verse in context and refute common objections against this verse using Cornelia Lapide. Verse 28, and I give unto them eternal life. The sheep of Christ are of two kinds. First, all Christians, and secondly, those alone who are predestinated to glory. The words of Christ relate to the second class. And S. Augustine shows why they do not perish. For they are of those sheep of whom it is said, the Lord knoweth who are his. They are specially the sheep of Christ, none of whom perish. And yet of the former class Christ also says, I give unto them eternal life, that is, as far as I may. I make them the promise. I give them all necessary helps. I wish for their salvation. If then any of them perish, it is not my fault but theirs, for they will not cooperate with my grace. For neither the devil nor anyone else is able to pluck them out of my hand if they resolve to abide in it, and will not be torn away. For my grace, if they cooperate with it, has power to keep them from being taken from me. But if they leave me of their own will, it is not a tearing away, but their own voluntary act. So es cryo Leontius Theophylact and Maldonatus. Christ means to say that no power can take them away, but they have full liberty to go away from Christ. I give unto them eternal life, that is, if they abide in faith and obedience to me. I give it in this world through grace by hope, and I will hereafter give it in glory. He invites the Jews by this promise to become his sheep, and reproves them for refusing to do so. The faithful are in the hand, that is under the protection and guardianship of Christ. This is signified by the hand, which ministers to the whole body. C.S. Isidore, Edom, Ver. 29. My Father which gave them me is greater than all. The Vulgate and Latin lathers read, Magis, the Greek fathers, Mixon, and no one is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. Because the divine nature which the Father gave me, and its almighty power, is greater than all created beings, even angels and devils. And as no one can pluck them out of my Father's hand, so can they not pluck them out of my own, for the hand and the power of the Father and myself are one and the same. So S. Augustine Bede Maldonatus and C.S. Ambrose Despair, Sancto, 18 S. Hilary de Trin, and Tertullian contra Praxam. He says this against the Jews who regarded him as a mere man. Know then that the eternal Father gave me a divine nature and personality far higher than any created nature, whether angels or men. Others explain it, that the sheep committed to me by the Father must be more highly valued by me than anything else, and no one can pluck them either out of my Father's hand or out of my own hand. But the first explanation is both the most sublime and most full of meaning. S. Cyril explains it thus, My Father has committed to me, his incarnate Son, the care of his sheep. As God I have equal power with him, and as man, my hand is strengthened by the almighty hand of the Father. Whence the interlinear gloss explains the word hand, by me who am the hand of the Father. For as S. Augustine says, men call their hands those persons through whom they do what they wish. The two explanations come to the same thing. Verse 30. I and my Father are one, not only by agreement and consent of will, as the Arians hold, but also one in essence and Godhead, the same in number, not in species, for otherwise there would be more gods than one. Christ speaks here as God and the Word of the Father, and from this the Fathers prove his Godhead against the Arians. And the Jews understood the words in the same sense, and consequently sought to stone him as a blasphemer. And Christ himself explained them in the same sense, for he said, I am the Son of God. It is clear also from his line of argument, being one with the Father, I have the same almighty power. For where the essence is the same, the power is also the same. So says S. Hilary de Trinit, Elib. The Father and the Son are one, not as he speaks of the faithful, in chap 17, that they may be one, but one in nature, honor, and power. He steers between Scylla and Charybdis, says S. Augustine, in Locke, between Arius and Sibelius, for by speaking of one, he signifies oneness of nature. But by saying we are, he indicates a plurality of persons, which Sibelius denied, affirming that God was one in person as well as in essence. S. Augustine says the same, de Trinit. See Bellarmine de Christo I 6, 31. The Jews therefore took up stones to stone him, as a blasphemer. The Jews show in this their hypocrisy, malignity, and hatred of Christ, and that they did not honestly, but craftily and insidiously ask him whether he were the Christ. But Christ, as being God, kept them from casting on him the stones which they held in their hands. Hard as stones, says S. Augustine, they rushed to the stones. Mystically, says S. Hilary de Trinit, Elib. And now also heretics hurl the stones of their words, to cast down, if they can, Christ from his throne, inspired no doubt by Lucifer, who aimed at obtaining this throne of Godhead, and therefore grudged it to Christ, and is active in taking it away by means of heretics. Verse 32, Jesus answered, he replied not to the words, for none had been spoken, but to the crafty intention of the Jews. He answered, i.e., he asked them for what cause. By works he means the miracles which he had wrought by the authority and supernatural aid of God the Father. And he thus quietly reproves their ingratitude and malignity. I have healed, he would say, your blind and lame and sick by my divine power, when destitute of all human aid. Why do ye ungratefully repay my many kindnesses by evil treatment, and wish to stone me? Verse 33, the Jews answered for a good work and secher. The Jews, says S. Augustine, understood that which the Arians understand not, for they felt that it could not be said, I and the Father are one, unless the Father and the Son were equal. Verse 34, Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law, see, 82:6, I said, ye are gods? The word in Hebrew is plural. God is called Elohim as ruling and governing the world, and as the judge and punisher of evil doing. Whence angels and judges who share this power are called gods, not by nature or by hypostatical union, as Christ, but by participating in the divine judgments, CX 7:22, 28, peace, 8:6 in the Hebrew Elohim. But there, as S. Hilary observes, lib. vi de Trinit, the word Elohim is limited by the context, so as to make it clear that the word does not signify God, but angels or judges. And so in 82, God standeth in the congregation of princes. He is the judge among gods. The gods who are judged are men or angels. He who judges them is the one true God. Just as Christ here, says S. Augustine, judges as God the Pharisees and rulers of the Jews, who were gods, so to speak, upon earth. On this account, he quotes this psalm, which is in Hebrew Elohim, judges. Elohim, the highest of all, judges the earthly rulers who are under him. This is supported by the Chaldee Targum, which explains, ye are gods, and are all the children of the highest. Ye are the angels of the high God. And that which is properly said of angels is extended to all Israelites and the faithful, for they are the sons of God. But when the word Elohim is used absolutely, without limitation, it signifies the one and true God.